Kisisas Reish Bnei Yisrael, when you will count the heads of the Bnei Yisrael, to atone for their souls. It's known the analysis of this. The idea of counting says specifically in the expression of raising. Why is it? It means raising up. Like it's brought down the Gemara Basra, that why is it used specifically this type of expression? Could have used more common expressions like tivka, tibna, tispar. It's all types of words in Lashon Kodesh that we could use for counting. Aber Moshe Rabbeinu said before Hashem, Rebbeinu Shalom, Master of the universe, how can it be upraised and uplifted? The principle, the of Yidden, Amar Loi b'chitisa. This can be done through kitisa. The lechuda seemingly had yesh kamal l'shoynis binyan aminyan, like I mentioned just before, that there's many different expressions and words that can be used for counting. Why is he specifically use over here the expression tisa shepirusha arama, that it means raising up? The same thing in the Chumash of Numbers, that the beginning of Parshat Bamidbar talks about counting the Yidden. So the entire Chumash of Bamidbar is called Chumash Apekudim. It also uses this term, not just in our Parshat Kisisa. Su'u es Rosh Chodesh Bnei Yisrael. Su'u dafke. Again, it uses specifically the word su'u instead of some other expression of numbers. Also, we need to understand why he says specifically when you are counting the head. The idea of numbers and calculations do not have to do specifically to the head. It has to do with the general thing that's counted. When I count how many whatever I have, or how many dollars I have, is it the head of the dollar that matters? How many svarim I have, it's the head of the sefer. How many eggs do I have? It's the head of the egg. I count the entire egg. The same thing when you count the Yidden. You have to know how many heads, you have to know how many Yidden there are. You should have said when you count the Bnei Yisrael, instead of talking about counting the heads. Especially according to what we explained before, that tisa is from the word raising up. The seemingly the head, the brain, that's called the king. That's called the most elevated and most praiseworthy thing in the person. That, what's there to raise up? It's already a head. It's already above. Rather, where is raising up applicable? That's applicable on the lower limbs and organs. Why does it specifically say over here when you will raise up the head? So too in Chumash Bamidbar, it says raise up the head. Why specifically the head? Base. So now we're going to get back to the Megillah. This is a mimer that said on Shushan Purim, still Purimdik. This will be understood by prefacing Mashakasa, where it says, Ish Yehudi hay b'Shushan Abira. There was a Jewish person, a person of Yehuda, that was in the capital city of Shushan, which his name was Mordechai. Ben Yoir, the son of Yoir, Ben Shimi, the son who was the son of Shimi, Ben Kish, who was the son of Kish. In other words, going through his lineage. The Isa Gemara is brought down the Gemara, the Kulon Ashmoy Nikru. Even though the simple meaning is this is his lineage, who his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather was. But perhaps the diuk is, why is it necessary to go into all of those, all of that lineage? You're not leading it back to anywhere significant. You say Ben Yoir, Ben Shimon, Ben Kish, Ish Yemini, a man from Binyamin. You're anyway telling me he's from Shevet Binyamin. What does it help by knowing who his father, who his grandfather, his great-grandfather was? We don't find this usually enumerating just a few generations, unless we're trying to enumerate in certain Sfarim, certain Sifrei Kodesh, and certain places in Nach. He's trying to enumerate to get it to a specific personage. Let's say, how has he come from Dvar Malchus or whatever. How does this come from there? So he's getting, but here it just seems to be like an unnecessary enumeration. Father, grandfather, or great grandfather. That's it. So the Gemara is medayik that there's also a deeper meaning to this. The Kulam Ashmai Nikra. This is all these names really apply to the level of Mordechai, what Mordechai Tzaddik was about. Ben Yair is called the son of Yair. Ben Sheher, named Shal Yisrael B'Tfilosi, a son that illuminated the children, the eyes of the Eden in his davening. It's like Ben Chorim. Ben does not mean necessarily son of, just like Bar Mitzvah does not mean son of. It means a person that was illuminated the Eden's eyes through his davening. Ben Shimi, why is it called Ben Shimi? Shesham El Tfilosi. Sheshama, that Hashem listened to the davening of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Mordechai, I'm sorry. Ben Kish, Shehikish al Shari Shemayim v'niftchuloi. Ben Kish, the word knocking. He knocked on the gates of heaven and they were open to him. I'm moving from this understood. Top of the next page. Shekavonos hakasuv he, that the intention of this pasuk of enumerating about each Yehudi, he's lahadgish as malose shel Mordechai b'inyan atfilah. It's to emphasize the advantage and quality of Mordechai in davening. Every single expression over here, every single name, the Chazal connected with davening. He illuminated the eyes of the Eden with davening. The Gemara says, Hashem listened to Mordechai's davening. He knocked on the gates of heaven, on the gates of mercy, and they were open to him. It's all expressions having to do with davening. So the Rebbe asks, seemingly, that wasn't what Mordechai was about. We need to understand the main advantage of Mordechai wasn't the idea of Torah. He was the head of the Sanhedrin, and he was a member of the men of the Great Assembly, the 120 tzaddikim that were responsible for many takanas between the times of Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. In addition to this, Shapirush the Ben Yair v'Gomer Ben Shahir v'Cholu, that the meaning that Ben Yair, etc., all the different things, Ben Shimi, Ben Kish, someone that illuminated, that itself, when we talk about just the word of illumination, illumination has to do with something having to do with intellect. Ben Yair, Ben Shahir Cholu, it's the idea of wisdom, that we know wisdom is the level of oil, to such a degree that chachma is a light beyond the vessel, like we learned in the previous mimer. It's totally different years. It's not a hemshech. That was in Tafshel Lamed, the previous mimer we learned. This is Lamed Aleph. But the Rebbe spoke over there about chachma's panim illuminating reasons and understanding. Chachma is the level of oil without a keli. So when you talk about Ben Sheheir, that he's Ben Yair, he has the idea of illumination, that's Chachma. And also, even Ben Shimi has to do with Seichel, Ben Sheshama, etc., the one that heard, that the Eibush could listen to, we know throughout Chassidus it explains, Shema Yisrael, for example, it means understand. And the level of understanding, comprehension, that's the level of Bina. So again, has to do, Ben Yair has to do with Chachma, Ben Shimi has to do with Bina, Ben Kish, Shehikish al Shari Rachmim, Mukavem Tzoi, the one that knocked on the gates of mercy. Mercy is in the center line of the Spheres, the Tiferes in the middle line, which the middle line starts with the level of Das. Das is also the middle line. Bechinas Das. Chachma is on the right, Bina is on the left, Das in the middle, the Chesed is on the right, Gevura is on the left, and Tiferes in the middle. So Tiferes, which has to do with Rachamim, has to do also and connects with the level of Das. Other places Chassidus brings down that Mish Ein Lei Das Asur Racham Olav. It's prohibited to have mercy on someone that has no Das. It's a whole different discussion what that means, etc. But we see the interrelationship between Das and mercy. When there's Das, that comes out to the level of mercy. So it's the flip side also. When you talk about Mordechai being knocking on the gates of mercy, meaning he had the level of Das. So we see over here Ben Yair, Ben Shiri, Ben Kish, we have Chachma Bina Das. Chachma Bina Das seemingly is not something that has to do with Tefillah, Chacham bin Adas should be something else. Should be the idea of Torah. Line 12. Chacham bin Adas, which is not Torah, the idea of intellect, which is Chacham bin Adas, that level of Torah. If so, the question is, what's the reason that the Gemara emphasizes over here the advantage and quality of Mordechai concerning davening? Davening is not about the brain, it's about the heart. Like it says in the pasuk of the to serve him with all your heart. Chazal said, what is an avoid of the heart? That's davening. Also, it says at the beginning of the pasuk, even that also has to do with davening. Even before we get to Ben Yoel, Ben Shimei, Ben Kish, it has to do with Ish Yehudi. Also has to do Why is it connected with the idea of davening? Yehudi al Shem Inyan Haidah. Why is he called a Yehudi? Because of the Haidah. Because the Gemara asks, there's a contradiction. You start saying Ish Yehudi, that means from Shevet Yehuda. And then you conclude, by Yoel Ben Shimei Ben Kish, Ish Yemini. He's from Shevet Binyamin. You start off saying he's Yehuda, and you conclude he's from Shevet Binyamin. Which is it? Which Shevet did he come from? Like it's brought down, Mordechai comes from Shevet Binyamin. Why is he calling him Yehudi? Not because he was from Shevet Yehuda, but for a totally different reason. Because he denied Yehudi. Whoever denies Avodah Zarah is called a Yehudi, because Yehudi is from the word Haidah, like we're going to explain soon. He admits in Hashem, he accepts Hashem. So another Maim Chazal says, whoever denies Avodah Zarah, it's as if he admits in the entire Torah, meaning that denial of Avodah Zarah has to do with the idea of Haidah. So now that we've established that Mordechai is about Haidah, and Haidah, the Rebbe is going to say, has to do with davening primarily. The idea of admitting and accepting, he nullifies himself, he sublimates himself to the one that he admits to. It's connected more to davening than learning. Because in Torah, study a person has to be in the full power of their being, in a way of a king. Where do we see this? This says the Man Malka Rabbanon. The Chazal say, who are considered kings? The Chachamim. Because when you learn Torah, you need to come with your entire force of your intellect, and you need to be sure, and you need to bring out maskana and bring a halacha, a ruling, and say, this is what we're supposed to do. That's what intellect is about. That's what Torah study is about. It's not about Haidah, it's about understanding fully my whole understanding as I understand it. As opposed to davening, he's like a servant standing before his master, like it's brought down in the big Shulchan Aruch, and so too in the Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe. So therefore, that's where bittul applies. That's where Haidah applies. Especially since the idea of admitting and accepting is connected with the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, of the different names of Hashem. Can move and Al-Pi Hamavor Marsha, top of page Zayin, like it's understood from what's explained in the Marsha. Because Yehuda was Moida, he admitted, he took responsibility for his wrongdoing. So therefore, his responsibility that he took for his wrongdoing, by the case of Tamar, that he said that Tzadka Memeni, that she's right, Tamar is right. Really, the child that she's pregnant with was mine. So even though it meant like admitting to something inappropriate, but he did it he was willing to be Maida, he's willing to be Mevatel himself. So that's why Yehuda's name has the entire name of Yud Kei Vav Kei included in it, except as an additional Dalet. On the other hand, the Gemara contrasts this with Yosef Atzadik. Yosef was the level of, because it says that it's Yosef is also called Yehoisef. and he was added the letter Hey from the Eibishter's name because of his Kiddush Hashem that he did with Eishes Potifar. So on the other hand, Yehuda was added the entire. He was zoichet to have the entire name of Hashem in his name included. Not just one letter was added, but the entire name of Hashem. The point being, it's the level of admitting shows on the level of bittul. Bittul has to do with davening. So therefore, again, why do we make this emphasis of Ben Yoel, Ben Shimon, Ben Kish, the davening and the name of each Yehudi, that he was also the level of davening, when Mordechai was really, that wasn't his thing. He was primarily the head of Sanhedrin. That has to do with a completely different idea than the bittul of davening.